We have the soul of the boat in our hands.
We do. The soul of the boat is in our hands. It's all here, believe it or not. What we're now going to do is start preparing these panels to go through the planar thicknesser. Some of them have got old screws and stuff sticking out the bottom. Some of them have got little bits that are starting to peel away and need gluing and clamping. And then what we should get back from the planar thicknesser is a whole load of timber floorboards, fresh, with, you know, without the diesel smell, without the varnish, that we can then fix up and start refitting in the boat.
We are Andy, Melissa, Jack and Oliver.
We've spent the last few years preparing to head off sailing to every corner of the world.
A few years ago we bought this huge steel yacht as a project.
But when Ollie came along, we needed a bigger boat with more cabins.
So now we're working on both boats,
Getting Ocean Melody ready to go,
getting Still Melody ready to launch so that we can sell her.
to put some much needed funds back in the kitty for when we set sail. If you missed last week's episode, let me just catch you up. One of our dear friends has become very, very poorly, very, very fast. So we're house sitting for them so they can rent a place near the hospital for their treatment, which means we can use the workshop here to do some bits and pieces in the dry. And because we're not sleeping on the boat for a short while, we've ripped out all the sole boards, cupboard doors and a few bits and pieces so we can sand, repair, revarnish, repaint and refit that stuff, which we couldn't do if the kids were sleeping there. It's a bittersweet thing though. Our friends are thanking us for looking after the house, which is beautiful by the way, so it feels weird to be thanked for something which is a huge help to us and which we would do in a heartbeat even if it wasn't. Anyway, we're not sure how long we're going to be doing the house sitting, it won't be for long, and we've got Still Melody to work on as well. So as I said last week, I don't want this interior renovation of Ocean Melody to take weeks and weeks. It's more of a light renovation than a really deep one. And it's not something we were even going to tackle until next year, but life's like that, isn't it? Serendipity comes at strange times and in strange ways, so we're making the most of this opportunity to get some work done which would simply be impossible with two kids sleeping on the boat. With the sole boards removed from the boat, it's now a case of examining each board one at a time, removing any brass ferrules and old screws and drilling out any old teak plugs so that we can go ahead and strip off the old varnish from the tops and clean up the underside. These boards have been down for probably 50 years and there's not a hint of rot in the teak, which just shows the longevity and durability of these old boats. The holly strips hadn't lasted quite so well and some will need replacing, but even so, for a 50-year-old floor it's in great condition. The underside of the boards have over the years got grubby and smell of old diesel and bilge. If you've spent any time on an old boat, you know that smell well. So hopefully by cleaning up both the top sides of these boards and the underside, it will go a long way to maybe giving our boat a new boat smell instead of an old boat smell. Although there are no rot issues, over the years various of these boards have been lifted for wiring and plumbing and what have you by previous owners, and inevitably that's resulted in some damage to some boards, with a few of them being split in a few places.
So here's another question for you. It's rhetorical really, because I know I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. What would you do in this situation? Would you replace the whole floor with brand new timber? Well, great if you can afford it, but this is solid 15 or 18 mil teak with holly. There's no way on God's green earth I can afford to do that. And I don't like the idea of ripping out beautiful original teak and putting in plywood, do you? But the other thing is, when I come to fit these boards back down, we're really tight budget-wise at the minute. So I haven't got the money to replace these boards that are broken. So I'm having to repair them, the ones that are cracked and split and broken. So it's like, well, what's the best way forward here? In the ideal world, you know, donate these boards to a different boat and go and buy brand spanking new teak, don't you? But the world's not an ideal place. Okay. Right. So what have we got here? We've got all of the panels from all of the sole boards from the boat laid out on the floor, more or less where they need to go. They're all labelled. I have taken off any of the holly that was obviously coming off. So these panels are thick teak with holly along the sides, like so. Teak, holly. Can you see the holly strip? Now, some of them, the holly was peeling away. Some of them, the holly was completely nadgered. So on some of them, I've removed the holly completely, but only on the ones where it was obviously coming away, because I thought if I start trying to break the holly off that's really nicely glued, I'm just going to make matters worse. So I've also removed all the screws, all the fittings. Melissa's been helping me take some of the bits apart so that when they go through the planer, they don't destroy the guy's blades. So the planer leveler that we were going to use is out of commission. It's actually broken. So rather than wait for that to get fixed, I'm just going to do it with a hand plane, because when I was doing the backs of them yesterday, the underside of the planks, the result was really, really good. And I was even thinking then, flipping heck, I don't actually need the planer leveler for this. I can do it by hand. So I'm going to press on and do that. So the sole boards are all now planed on the top side and on the underside. In the process of doing that, some of the teak and holly came apart, like so. Here's a teak strip and a holly strip, and that's come off. So I'm now in the process of cleaning the holly up and epoxying it back on, gluing it back onto the teak. And also, whilst I'm doing that, I'm plugging all of the holes, the screw holes. So I may change the position of some of these screw holes depending on the joists in the boat, but basically these are tiny little teak plugs and they go in there like that, tap them in, glue them in, shave them flat, and then I can re-drill the holes, which will be a lot neater. As you can see on some of the boards though, the holly stayed on beautifully, so I haven't ripped the holly off the teak boards where it was bonded on nicely. So that's going on. This is example, one of those going on there. And at the same time, what I'm doing is the deck head slats. I'm sanding the underside of them, in fact not the underside, the non-visible, the top side of them, so that I can now write their identifiers, port 9 or whatever, on this side, and then I can sand the paint off, paint those, and then they'll be ready to go back on the boat. And the next thing I want to do is get all the door hinges off and the door furniture, because these hinges are good quality old school brass hinges, really nice. I'm going to take them off and I'm going to soak them to try and free them up, see if I can salvage them if possible. I've got some ideas for what I'm going to soak them in, but if you've also got any suggestions, leave them in the comments.
So the woodwork is all removed, it's been planed and sanded back to the bare wood to get rid of the dirt and musty smells on the underside and the scratched old varnish on the top sides. The slats for the deck head are all sanded and labelled and almost ready for repainting. So the next step is to prepare the boat to have all this woodwork reinstalled and to find those pesky leaks, which we will be doing next time.
Hey. You ready to go? While I'm doing this, Melissa is going to the boat now to clean the bilges and prepare the boat for everything to go back on. So, while I look after Ollie again for a bit. So, it actually helps me. And bizarrely enough, it gives Melissa a little bit of a break from just being a feeding production zone. So what we're going to do now is we're going to fade to black. And we're going to finish the episode, because next week's episode is all going to be Melissa cleaning the boat.
I'm not sure about all of it.
Some of it. And with that, thank you very much for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Thanks to our patrons, as always, for supporting.
And we'll see you next week. I'm sure you'll be there next week too.
Bye.